So today I want to tell the story about my relationship with the cards, how it started, and why they've been always a really important part of my life since age 18. Cards have gotten a bad rap, and it's based on many things over centuries of literally bullshit. I hope by telling my story and the way that I'm with cards will give you a different insight. But the first thing you have to do is be open-minded and put any preconceived notions off to the side so that you can hear from a different place. And if you feel like you can't do that, you're probably already gone. Because I'm not here to teach you or to change you. I'm here to enlighten and to give you a different way of looking at something such as these that might have always given you a little curiosity. When I was around 18, I had started college, and because I loved French, that was part of my curriculum. And a few other people loved it too, and I had suddenly this great little circle of friends. One friend of which I went to high school with, but we weren't friends in high school. And she's very important to the story because she actually taught me tarot. One day I went over to her house, and we always often went up into her room where we would talk about boys. It's that easy. I was still a young kid, and boys were everything to us, right? And so one day she took out her cards, which were nicely wrapped in, I wouldn't say it was 100% silk, but it was a silk cloth. And it was so intricately like knotted and beautiful. And she brought it out and she laid out the cloth as the place to lay cards. And she was describing all of these things, which I like to say are mystic rules, right? Some people put their cards in these things, cloths and silks and specific colors, to protect their cards, to ward off any bad energy. I have one set that's in, I don't have them nearby, but I have one set that's put in a wood box, and the wood box was gifted to me recently. So that's a beautiful place. But we don't always all have these things. So these are the things she would teach me, and I was coming quite frequently over to her house so that we could read cards and she could teach me how to do it. Now, as I said, that was the tarot, that was a tarot deck, and then I think she gifted me the first deck that I ever owned. And I have no idea where those are anymore as things go, and many moves later, I've lost many decks. That might have more to do with my ADHD than anything else, but the cards that are always meant for you will find you. And that was one big story she shared with me that I've actually seen in my life time and time again. Aside from how you cover them and how you place them and how you read them, she was teaching me these other little mystical rules. And that one, the cards will always find you, was powerful on a couple of different levels. I remember her telling me the story of one of the decks that she bought. I'm not sure if it was her first deck, but it was a deck that she bought in Salem, Massachusetts, which is known for the witch trials in the mid to late 1600s in the US. Quite a few women lost their lives in those witch trials. And so it's got this mystical energy there to begin with. She went into the shop and it was just floor to ceiling cards. And she was looking for a new deck. And as she was walking down the length of the wall, a deck of cards fell at her feet. And she just knew that was their way of saying, we belong together. And I've always loved that story and have carried it with me my whole life. I I love that idea of how they find you. They're like, I'm not sure if I said this, but they're like your friends, and there's an energetic pull between you and the cards. So I told this story years ago to another friend. We were having lunch here in my city, and I said, yeah, it's so magical when you find your own cards that way. And I never had that experience, I said to her, but it would really be amazing to have that experience. Across the way was this store, and that's why I brought it up, because I was looking to get a new book or a new deck. Something that you might need to know about me is I live in the Netherlands, and so this bookstore and esoteric store is filled with a lot of things, but most of them are Dutch, because that's the language here. Anytime I would go, I would be drawn to things that looked interesting and always turned out to be English, which was great. That's both with books and crystals and all kinds of things in that store. And in this one day, after having lunch with this friend and telling that story about Salem, Massachusetts and my friend's first deck, I went across the street. She went on with her day. I was really into shamanism. I go into the store and immediately it starts happening. I'm getting pulled to certain bookshelves because English books, by the way, were not like separated out in any way. I was having that like getting pulled here and there, and just, I always think that's kind of fun. And then I went over to this like case where all of their decks were, and they're locked, so I could only see them through the case. And I wasn't really feeling anything special with any of them. So I just kind of walked around, and then all of a sudden I got like this big urge to go across the room to this like kiosk. And there were a bunch of cards, and I was really drawn to this bigger deck, and it was kind of bumped out a little bit. So I was going to grab it, and as I was pulling it, this deck fell right at my feet. And this deck, the Wisdom of the Hidden Realms, is based on shamanism rules. And this deck has been one of the most powerful of my decks while reading for myself or reading for another person, a client. And that's how I know that there's more to this than any dogma or religion or any preconceived notions that we might have that they're evil. It's based on energy. We have an energy, like this card's telling me right now, to take small steps. Maybe this card from earlier is showing me more, like golden children. What message could I get? Be playful. It's about my inner child. You know, there's so much in this that we can get from working with, in specific, oracle cards. That's what these are, but tarot cards as well. It's a tool for tapping into your own energy because it's based on the law of attraction. So this is the step into why I use the cards, and hopefully in this fun story, in this magical, mystical story, you can see that whether you believe or not in these cards, that there is a type of connection to this tool that we can all have. And you don't have to be a practicing witch or any of those things to have this experience. So that's a little story of mine of how I got started in cards. And I have more here to share with you. I'd love to hear what this story gave you. Do you use cards? Are you interested in using cards? Do you use something else? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and subscribe, and more to come.